The Galactic Academy stood like a shining jewel among the stars. For hundreds of years, it had trained the best soldiers from across the galaxy. Only the smartest and strongest aliens could join, mostly from nice, peaceful planets with gentle gravity and clean air. The Academy leaders believed their strict, logical training methods were the pinnacle of galactic defense. Lieutenant Commander Xandra watched a small ship land on the docking bay. She had 6 blue arms and skin that changed colors like a rainbow. She was not happy about the new students arriving today. Humans, she said with a sigh. Deathworlders. Senior Instructor Varlin stood beside her, his 2 antennae twitching nervously. They won't last a week here. Deathworlders have no discipline. Their chaotic nature is simply incompatible with our structured training. The Academy leaders had finally allowed 5 humans to join after years of Earth asking for a chance. Humans were different from the other aliens. They came from a planet most aliens thought was a nightmare. Heavy gravity, poisonous oxygen air, wild temperature changes, and countless tiny germs everywhere. Aliens called Earth a Class 12 death world. Most galactic strategists believe such environments produce beings too unpredictable and savage for sophisticated military roles. The ship's door opened with a hiss. 5 humans walked out, blinking in the bright light of the 3 suns. They looked smaller and weaker than many of the alien students watching them, but they moved with a smooth, confident way that made many aliens step back without knowing why. These weren't just any humans. Earth's leaders had picked each one carefully. Aisha Khan, the team leader and expert in battle planning, had dark hair tied back tightly. Marcus Chen, the engineer who could fix or build almost anything, carried extra tools in his pockets. Sophia Rodriguez, who knew everything about living things in biology, studied the alien plants as she walked. Jamal Washington, who understood how minds work, watched the alien students' reactions with interest. Dmitry Petrov, the combat specialist, scanned the area with alert eyes, missing nothing. The alien students whispered among themselves. Some had extra arms or glowing skin, others floated instead of walking. All of them stared at the humans with a mix of fear and curiosity. Lieutenant Commander Xandra stepped forward. "Welcome to the Galactic Academy," she said coolly. "Your kind has never trained here before. I suggest you keep to yourselves and try not to scare the other students." Aisha Khan smiled politely. "We're here to learn, Commander. Nothing more." What Xandra didn't know was that these humans had a secret mission. They weren't just here to study. They were here to prove that humans belonged among the stars. That night, in their small shared room, the 5 humans sat in a circle. "Did you see how they looked at us?" Jamal asked. "Like we might attack them at any moment." "They've never met Deathworlders before," Sophia said. "They think we're dangerous because our planet is dangerous." Marcus was already taking apart the room's computer system. "Their technology is amazing, but they think in very limited ways. We have 3 months to change their minds," Aisha said firmly. "Earth is counting on us." Mitri, who rarely spoke, looked up from cleaning his boots. "Then we don't disappoint Earth." None of them knew that in just 2 months they would shock the entire galaxy and force the Academy to confront its own arrogance. 2 months passed at the Galactic Academy. The 5 humans surprised everyone. They struggled with alien biology classes and space law, but they excelled in fighting practice, battle planning, and even in making peace between arguing aliens. One morning, the Academy buzzed with excitement. All the students gathered in the main hall where Senior Instructor Varlin stood on a floating platform. "Attention, cadets," Varlin announced, his voice echoing. "It is time for our most honored tradition, the Siege of Gaia exercise." And the alien students whispered excitedly. Many looked nervous. "For those who don't know," Varlin continued, looking directly at the humans, "the siege is our greatest challenge. For 100 years, no team has ever broken through the fortress defenses. The current record is 43 minutes before failure. Most teams last less than 10 minutes. He smiled, showing his small, pointed teeth. "The siege is not meant to be won. It is meant to teach you humility and how to learn from losing." Varlin's gaze lingered on the humans. "Its defenses are meticulously designed against all known tactics. It is, in essence, perfect." The exercise was a huge hologram game. Students would attack a mountain fortress called Gaia while instructors controlled the defenses. It felt completely real, including the pain from being hit. When the team lists appeared on the big screen, the 5 humans found themselves grouped together. The alien students looked at them with pity. They put all the Deathworlders together, an 8-legged alien student whispered loudly. They'll be destroyed fast. That evening, the humans gathered in their room. Marcus connected his computer to show a 3D map of the fortress. I got this from the Academy records, he said. Look at the design. Aisha studied the floating image. It's built to stop normal attacks. Every path to the center is heavily guarded. The aliens think it's impossible to win, Mitri said, his eyes narrowed. But they're thinking like garden worlders. What do you mean? Sophia asked. They evolved on safe planets, Mitri explained. They never had to survive like we did on Earth. They think inside boxes, Jamal nodded. I've been watching them. They follow rules perfectly. They never look for, what do you call it, loopholes? Marcus said, zooming in on different parts of the fortress. Exactly, look here and here. The designers didn't consider these spots important. They are blind to anything that isn't proper warfare. The next day, a jellyfish-like alien named Claxi approached the humans in the dining hall. Claxi had been one of the few friendly aliens. I should warn you about the siege, Claxi said, body glowing with concern. The pain feels very real when the defense weapons hit you. It hurts badly. Most teams give up because of the pain. Pain is just information, Jamal replied with a shrug. Claxi's body rippled in shock. Over the next few days, the humans made strange requests from the Academy's supply room. Climbing gear, heat blankets, and lots of food. What do you need all this food for? The supply manager asked. Siege rations, Aisha answered simply. The manager approved the request but rolled his 3 eyes. Everyone knew the siege never lasted long enough to need food. Meanwhile, each human prepared in their own way. Marcus worked on their equipment in the engineering lab. Sophia studied the senses of different alien species. Mitri practiced combat moves that used Earth's stronger gravity. Jamal mapped the psychology of the defense team. Aisha created their master plan. The night before the big test, they gathered one last time. This breaks every Academy rule, Jamal warned. Exactly, Aisha smiled. That's why it will work. They think like aliens from safe worlds. We'll show them how Earth humans fight. Marcus looked at his friends. On Earth, we were never the strongest animals. We just refused to accept that fact. None of the alien instructors knew what was coming. They were about to learn a very painful lesson. The day of the siege arrived. The simulation chamber was huge, a giant dome, where special technology created places that felt completely real. All students and teachers gathered to watch the event. Teams would enter one by one to try attacking the fortress. The human team was scheduled last, which clearly showed what the instructors expected. Lieutenant Commander Zandra approached the humans as they waited. Her scales shifted to a concerned purple color. I should warn you, she said quietly. This exercise can be very hard on the mind and body. There is no shame in giving up. With respect, Commander, Aisha replied, humans don't usually think that way. The humans watched as each alien team tried the challenge. Some used clever battle plans, others tried technology tricks. A few just attacked with force. All failed within minutes. Most teams couldn't even reach the fortress walls. Finally, it was the humans' turn. They entered the preparation room where Senior Instructor Varlin gave final instructions. His antennae twitched nervously as he looked at their equipment. The goal is to capture the command center in the middle of the fortress, he explained. You may only use standard cadet equipment. The simulation begins in 30 seconds. The humans nodded and put on their gear quickly. Each carried a standard training weapon, but also their modified equipment and supplies. They stood in formation, faces serious and determined. Humans, Aisha addressed her team as the countdown began. Let's show them what Earth taught us. The simulation activated. Suddenly, they stood in a rocky mountain landscape. Ahead of them, the fortress of Gaia rose like a stone giant. Its ancient walls stretched up toward the clouds, covered with defense turrets and guards. The timer started. In the observation room, hundreds of aliens watched the main screen. They expected to see the humans charge forward or try to hide behind rocks like other teams. Instead, something strange happened. The humans disappeared. Where did they go? Asked Academy Director Thvok, his 4 compound eyes blinking in confusion. The screen showed the fortress standing tall and ready. The defense team scanned the approach paths but found nothing. There was no sign of the humans anywhere. "They must have run away," suggested one instructor. A smart choice, really, but Commander Zandra wasn't convinced. "Show me the first 10 seconds again," she ordered. The recording showed the humans dropping to the ground immediately after appearing in the simulation. Instead of running forward, they crawled on their bellies into a small drainage ditch that was barely visible among the rocks. After that, they simply vanished. "Impossible," muttered Varlon from his control station. "They only have standard equipment. They can't have invisibility technology. This violates the simulation's parameters." In the simulation, the fortress guards became more relaxed as time passed. 20 minutes went by with no sign of the humans. The audience grew restless. Some started to leave. The Academy officials felt a familiar smugness. Another team failing, proving their system was flawless. Then the unthinkable happened. Alarms blared throughout the fortress. Not from the front, but from within. Sensors detected movement inside the command center, the very heart of the fortress that no team had ever reached. The main screen showed 5 dust-covered humans standing in the command center, their weapons pointed at the fortress control system. Aisha Khan's voice came through the speakers. "Fortress command center secured. Earth team wins." The timer stopped at 29 minutes, 45 seconds. The observation room fell completely silent. No one knew what to say. The simulation froze. The instructors' faces were a mix of shock and utter disbelief. Academy officials rushed to understand what had happened. Guards escorted the 5 humans to the debriefing room, where angry and confused instructors waited. "Explain yourselves. This is not how the siege is won," Director Thvok demanded, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. "You broke the spirit of the exercise." Aisha stepped forward and turned on a 3D map of the fortress. "We found 3 big problems in the fortress design. Problems that aliens from safe worlds would never think about." Marcus pointed to different parts of the map. First, the drainage system. The fortress sits on a mountain with natural water flow. The designers made drainage tunnels only 40 centimeters wide. Most aliens think that's too small for anyone to fit through. "You crawled through the drainage tunnels?" Varlon asked, his face showing utter disgust. "That's unsanitary, dishonorable." "Humans evolved as hunters who chase their prey," Sophia explained, ignoring his revulsion. "Our shoulders can rotate in ways that let us squeeze through tight spaces. It was uncomfortable but possible." Second, Mitri added, the north face was considered naturally impossible to climb because it's freezing cold and almost straight up and down. But humans evolved in places with extreme temperatures. Marcus and I free-climbed it while the others used the drainage system. Jamal finished. "Finally, your guards had a psychological blind spot. Guards always paid less attention to areas they subconsciously thought were impossible to approach. I used that to create distractions." The instructor stared in disbelief. "You're saying you won because you ignored the rules of proper warfare?" One finally asked, clearly outraged. "No," Aisha corrected. "We won because we didn't ignore the environment that shaped us. Humans evolved on a dangerous world. We survived because we never accepted limitations. We found ways around them." The room fell silent as the aliens processed this information. The director's expression slowly shifted from anger to a dawning, troubled realization. Their perfect system had been bypassed by something so utterly alien to their way of thinking. This wasn't just a record broken, it was a fundamental flaw exposed. News about the humans' victory spread quickly through the Academy, then beyond to the Galactic Council itself. For the first time in 100 years, someone had beaten the Siege of Gaia, and it was Deathworlders who did it. Different alien species had different reactions. Some were horrified by the savage tactics, crawling through waste tunnels and climbing walls considered too dangerous. Others, especially the more military-minded species, suddenly wanted to learn more about human methods. But the Academy's troubles were just beginning. The audacious victory had inadvertently revealed a critical vulnerability in the standard galactic defense philosophy. The news, though downplayed by the Academy, gave new courage to hostile forces. Just weeks later, reports began flooding in. Ruthless alien resource raiders, notorious for their cunning and brutality, launched an unprecedented wave of attacks. They targeted vital mining colonies and trade routes, that had long been considered secure under the Academy's perfect defense doctrines. The Galactic Alliance dispatched its traditional peacekeeping forces, well-trained, disciplined, and equipped with the latest technology, all products of the Academy's methods. But they were repeatedly outmaneuvered and decimated. The Raiders, emboldened by their perceived weakness of the Alliance's conventional tactics, used the harsh environments of the mining planets against the peacekeepers, just as the humans had used Gaia. Dozens of Alliance ships were lost, colonies were stripped bare, and countless lives were threatened. The Academy, once seen as infallible, now faced an existential crisis of credibility. Their pride had cost the Alliance dearly. 3 days after the Gaia exercise, the humans were called to a special meeting. The entire Academy was there, along with several council representatives who had traveled by emergency fast ships. High Counselor Zeril, a tall, bird-like alien with colorful feathers, spoke to the crowd, his voice grim. For generations, the Galactic Council has believed that species from dangerous planets lack the right temperament for peacekeeping operations. What happened at this academy, and more recently, the devastating losses at the hands of the resource raiders, has proven us catastrophically wrong. The humans stood at attention, a sense of grim satisfaction mixed with the weight of the crisis. The human cadets have shown abilities that our training programs failed to expect, Zero continued, now looking directly at them. Their success shows not a problem with their character, but with our viewpoint. Our arrogance has cost us dearly. Lieutenant Commander Zandra stepped forward, her scales a somber gray. Her voice was strained but resolute. With the Council's permission, and acknowledging our grave misjudgment, I suggest we immediately create a new urgently needed training division. Adaptive Tactics. These human cadets will be central to developing its lessons. We need their perspective to survive. Whispers spread through the crowd. Letting first-year cadets help teach was unheard of, but the desperation was clear. Furthermore, Director Thvok added, his usual arrogance replaced by humility, I recommend quickly admitting more human candidates, and indeed candidates from all classified death worlds. Their unique evolutionary backgrounds clearly offer advantages we had not merely considered, but actively dismissed, to our great peril. For the human cadets, this was more than just a personal victory. Earth had been asking for greater involvement in galactic matters for decades, only to be constantly dismissed as a primitive death world. As the council representatives talked among themselves, Aisha leaned toward her teammates. This was never just about winning a simulation, she whispered. It was about proving humanity belongs at the table, especially when the old ways fail. Jamal nodded. They've spent centuries avoiding species like us. Now they're begging for what they've been missing. High Counselor Zeril raised a clawed hand for silence. The proposal is accepted. Let it be recorded that on this day, the classification of Earth has been formally recognized as an advantage, rather than a problem. For the first time in galactic history, being a Deathworlder had become something to be proud of, rather than ashamed of. That evening, Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council called the 5 humans. His face on the screen showed barely contained excitement. You've done the impossible, he told them. The Council has approved our request for a permanent seat at diplomatic talks. They're also reviewing our applications for technology sharing that they've been denying for years. All because we crawled through some pipes? Marcus said with a laugh. No, the ambassador corrected, his voice serious. Because you showed them something they never expected from Deathworlders. Not just brute force, but creativity, discipline, and the absolute refusal to accept limitations. You forced them to learn a hard lesson. What happens next? Sophia asked. Next, the ambassador smiled, we show them what humans can really do when given a chance. The Academy wants more human cadets immediately. And not just humans. They are reconsidering applications from other Deathworld species too. Aisha looked at her friends with pride. We came here to open a door, she said. Looks like we knocked down the whole wall instead. 2 weeks after the Gaia victory and the Council's desperate plea, the Academy had changed completely. A new training building called the Deathworlder Division stood where decorative gardens had once been. Inside, cadets from many worlds trained together. Species that had once been rejected as too primitive now worked alongside those from peaceful planets. The training now focused on adaptation, survival, and creative problem solving. Aisha Khan, wearing the new rank insignia of a cadet instructor, watched as a mixed team tackled a modified version of the siege simulation. "They're using our drainage tunnel approach," Marcus noted, standing beside her. "But they've added some interesting twists." The 5 original human cadets had become famous across the academy. Their success had opened doors not just for humanity, but for dozens of other species previously considered too uncivilized for galactic service. Commander Xandra approached, her scales now showing the gold patterns of a higher rank. Her expression, once cold, now held a respect that bordered on deference. "The council representatives will arrive tomorrow," she informed them. "They want to see the joint exercise demonstrations, and they have an urgent mission for your team specifically." "Are they still worried about our methods?" Sophia asked. Xandra's mouth curved in what the humans now recognized as a genuine smile. "Actually, no. The recent border conflict with the Rexus Empire, which traditional forces failed to contain, was quickly resolved using your waste pipe tactic. A team infiltrated their main ship through maintenance tubes considered too radioactive for travel." "Any injuries?" Mitri asked with concern. "Zero," Xandra replied. "The Empire surrendered when they found peacekeepers in their supposedly unreachable command room. They've started peace talks for the first time in 30 years. Your methods saved countless lives and resources." As Xandra left, Jamal turned to his friends. "Do you realize what this means? The Council isn't just considering Earth for full membership. They need us." Full membership meant access to advanced technologies, trade agreements, and protection under galactic law. Everything Earth had hoped for when they sent 5 carefully selected cadets on this mission. That evening, the original team gathered in their quarters for a small celebration. "To breaking records," Marcus toasted with a colorful drink. "To changing minds," added Sophia. "To humanity," said Mitri. "And to proving," Jamal concluded, "that sometimes the harshest worlds produce exactly what the galaxy desperately needs." Aisha looked at her friends, her team, and thought about their journey from being viewed as dangerous curiosities to becoming respected leaders in just 6 months. "To Deathworlders," she said finally, "may we never stop surprising them." The next day, a massive ship arrived, carrying the High Council itself. The entire academy gathered in the main hall. High Counselor Zero stepped forward, towering over everyone. "For generations," he began, "the Galactic Council believed that only species from peaceful worlds could maintain peace. The events of recent months and the painful lessons we have learned have proven us utterly, fundamentally wrong." He unfolded a document with elaborate markings. "Today, Earth is officially granted full membership in the Galactic Alliance. Furthermore, the Academy will now accept cadets from all classified worlds, regardless of environmental origin. We recognize now that our galaxy's true strength lies in its diversity, not its uniformity." The hall erupted in cheers. Later, Earth's president called the 5 cadets directly. "You've changed our place in the galaxy," she told them with pride. "What started as a simple training exercise has become the beginning of a new era for humanity and all Deathworlders." As the celebration continued around them, the 5 humans stood together, remembering how it all began. "Not bad for some Deathworlders who just wanted to pass a test," Marcus joked. "We didn't just pass their test," Aisha replied. "We changed it forever. And we made them realize just how much they needed us." And across the galaxy, on countless worlds once dismissed as too harsh or dangerous, beings looked up at the stars with new hope. The age of the Deathworlders had begun.